You're walking home on an ordinary evening. Maybe you've just left the shop. Maybe you're heading back from a friend's. And then you hear it. "Excuse me, mate, got a minute?" Two officers, calm, friendly, one of them smiling. Your stomach tightens, but you tell yourself it's fine. You'll be polite. You'll cooperate. You'll be on your way in 2 minutes. The officer steps in a little closer, glances at your bag, and asks you something that sounds like the most harmless question in the world. "Do you mind if I have a quick look in your bag?" And right there, in that one friendly little question, is a trap. A trap that has cost ordinary innocent people in this country their evening, their dignity, and sometimes a whole lot worse. And they walked straight into it with a single word. Because here is the truth that almost nobody tells you. When an officer asks your permission to search you, it is very often a sign that he cannot search you without it. That question is not politeness. It is a tactic. And the one word most people say back, "Yeah, sure, I've got nothing to hide," hands him the only thing he was actually fishing for. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you one sentence, one single sentence. It's calm, it's completely legal, and it shuts this trap before it can close, without making you look like you've got something to hide. I'll show you the exact UK law that backs it up word for word. And stay with me to the end, because there is a second thing the officer says right after this one. The line he uses when you don't just roll over, and that follow-up is the real trap. It's the one that catches even the people who are sure they already know their rights. I'm Oliver Bennett. For 15 years, I defended people in police stations and courtrooms across England and Wales. And on this channel, I break down exactly what to say and what not to say when the police stop you, using the real law, so that when it happens to you, you're the one in control. And let me be clear right at the start, I'm not here to tell you the police are the enemy. Most officers are decent people doing a hard, often thankless job. I'm here for the moments that involve the few who are fishing, so that when one of them turns to you, you know exactly where the line is. Quick note before we go further. This is legal education for England and Wales, not legal advice, and I'm not your solicitor. For your own situation, speak to a qualified one. Right, let me show you what that friendly little question really is. Here's what a good solicitor would tell you the second you describe this scene. They'd tell you that, "Do you mind if I have a look?" is not a question, it's a tool. Think about it for a second. To search you in this country, a police officer needs a power, and he needs grounds. Under Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, he can search you if he has reasonable grounds to suspect you're carrying something stolen or prohibited, a weapon, say. Under the Misuse of Drugs Act, he can search you if he has reasonable grounds to suspect drugs. If he has those grounds, he does not need your permission. He doesn't ask, "Do you mind?" He tells you he's detaining you for a search, and he searches you. So when an officer stops, softens his voice, and asks if you'd mind, listen closely, because he is very often telling you something without meaning to. He's telling you he doesn't have the grounds. If he did, he wouldn't be asking. He'd be doing. The question is a door he's hoping you'll open for him, because the law won't. And here is the part that catches good, honest people. The ones with genuinely nothing to hide. They think saying yes makes them look cooperative. They think saying no makes them look guilty. So they say, "Yeah, of course, go ahead." And in that instant, they've handed away the one protection the law gave them. Because the moment you consent, it doesn't matter that he had no grounds. You gave him permission, and permission is all he needed. A search you could have declined is now a search you agreed to. So understand this clearly. Refusing a voluntary search is not a crime. It is not evidence of guilt, and it is not, by itself, a reason for him to search you anyway. Declining is simply you keeping the door shut that the law says you're allowed to keep shut. And I want to take the fear out of this, because the fear is the whole tactic. The reason a friendly voice works better than an aggressive one is simple. Aggression makes people defensive and quiet, but friendliness makes people want to please. You don't want to be difficult. You don't want to look like you think you're better than him, or like you've watched too many videos online. So you override your own instinct, and you say yes to a man you would never, in any other situation on earth, let rummage through your bag. Understand that the politeness is not a kindness. It is the most effective tool he has. Which means your calm, "I don't consent," is not rudeness either. You can be warm about it. You can smile while you say it. "I'm happy to help you, but I don't consent to a search. What's the power and what are the grounds?" Friendly does not mean compliant. You can be the nicest person on that pavement and still keep the door firmly shut. So neither the eager yes nor a rude, aggressive no. There's a calm line right down the middle. And here is the exact sentence that walks it. When that officer asks if you mind him having a look, you look at him, relaxed and polite, and you say, "I don't consent to any search. If you're searching me under a power, please tell me what it is and what your grounds are. Otherwise, am I free to go?" That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me take it apart because every piece of it is doing a job. You start with, "I don't consent to any search." Not no, not you can't. Just a clear, calm statement that you are not giving permission. You're not resisting, you're not obstructing, you're declining, which is your right. Then, if you're searching me under a power, please tell me what it is and what your grounds are. This is the polite version of make him show his cards. If he genuinely has a power, Section 1, the Drugs Act, a Section 60 authorization in the area, he'll name it, and at that point you do not fight it. You let the search happen, and you remember every word for later. But if he's been fishing, this is the question that has nowhere to go. He can't name a power he doesn't have. And finally, otherwise, am I free to go? Because in law, this is almost always one of two things. Either you're being detained under a real power, in which case he must be able to say which one, or you're having a voluntary chat you are free to walk away from. There is no third option where you simply have to stand there because he'd like you to. That little question forces the choice. Let me make this real because I've watched it go both ways more times than I can tell you. Picture two people, same street, same evening, the same friendly officer asking the same question. The first, a decent bloke with absolutely nothing on him, hears, "Do you mind if I have a quick look?" And because he's got nothing to hide, he says, "Yeah, of course, go ahead." The officer searches him, finds nothing. But now there's a search record with his name on it, his details taken, his evening gone, and a stop and search statistic that never needed to exist. Now the second person, just as innocent, just as polite, hears the very same question and simply says, "I don't consent to a search. Are you detaining me under a power, or am I free to go?" The officer has no grounds, can't name a power, and within 30 seconds says, "No, mate, you're free to go." Same street, same innocent person, same friendly question. One of them handed over a right he didn't have to. The other kept it, politely, and walked away. And the only difference between those two evenings was a single sentence. And I want you to notice something, because this exact trick doesn't only happen with a bag. It's the same move in 5 different doorways. Mind if I check your pockets? Same rule, that's a consent search, you can decline. Mind if I have a quick look in the car? Same rule, without a power and grounds, a vehicle search needs your consent too. Can I just see your phone a second? Be very careful, because handing it over just to check is you consenting to him going through it, and there's no general power to demand your PIN at the roadside. And at your front door, "Do you mind if I step in for a chat?" is the most expensive version of all, because the moment you wave an officer over your threshold, a court can treat that as you inviting him in. 5 different doorways, 1 single key. If they are asking your permission, the law says you are allowed to say no. Now stay with me, because the officer is not going to give up after one calm sentence. And this is exactly where people crumble. So let me walk you up the ladder, rung by rung, and tell you what to hold on each one. First push. He smiles, a bit less warmly now. Why not though? If you've got nothing to hide, what's the problem? This is designed to make your silence feel like guilt. It isn't. Exercising a right is not evidence that you've done anything, and a court is not allowed to treat your polite refusal of a voluntary search the way it would treat a confession. So you don't take the bait, and you don't start explaining yourself. You just repeat, calmly, the same words. "I'm not consenting to a search. Are you detaining me under a power, or am I free to go?" Same tone, no anger. You can say it 3 times if you have to. Second push, and this is the one I promised you at the start, the real trap. Because a switched-on officer won't keep arguing about consent, he'll change the game. He'll say, very casually, "All right, well, I can smell cannabis," or "You're matching a description." And just like that, he's claiming grounds. Now, here's what most people get wrong. They think that's the moment to argue, to say, "No, you can't, that's rubbish." Do not. The second he names a power and claims grounds, the search is happening whether you like it or not, and fighting it physically is itself an offence. So you switch instantly from declining to documenting. You say clearly, for him and for any camera, "I still don't consent, but I won't resist. I want you to record that your grounds are the smell of cannabis." You comply with the search, you stay calm, and you've just locked his claimed grounds onto the record. Because if that search finds nothing, those words, "I could smell cannabis," on a search of someone who turns out to be completely clean, are exactly what a complaint is built from later. You don't win it on the pavement, you win it afterwards, in writing, where a calm, polite person stands on one side and an officer who couldn't name his grounds until he needed them stands on the other. And if he does name a power and search you, there's a checklist the law puts on him, not on you, and knowing it is how you spot a search that's gone outside the rules. Before he searches you, an officer is meant to tell you who he is, the station he's from, what he's looking for, the grounds for the search, the power he's using, and that you're being detained for it. If a search just happens, no grounds, no power named, none of it, that's exactly the search you raise afterwards. And there are limits on the search itself. In a public place, he can ask you to remove your outer coat, your jacket, and your gloves, and that is it. Anything more has to be done out of public view by an officer of the same sex. So an officer trying to make you tip your pockets out onto the bonnet or lift your shirt in the middle of a busy street is already past the line. You don't fight it, you note it, calmly, and it goes in the complaint. Third push, and this one's the bluff. When the calm questions have got him nowhere, and he still hasn't got grounds, sometimes you'll get the threat dressed up as a favour. "Look, we can do this the easy way, or I get a dog down here and we do it the hard way." That is pressure, not a power. So you don't argue and you don't fold. You stay on the one line. "I'm not consenting. If you've got a power, use it and tell me the grounds. If not, am I free to go?" Make him choose. Bluffs hate that question. Now let me answer the questions I can already hear you asking, because they're the ones that trip people up. What if I say no and he searches me anyway? Then he's claiming a power, so you stop declining and you start documenting his grounds, and you raise it later. You never resist. Doesn't refusing make me look guilty? No. And it can't be used against you the way an admission can. A polite "I don't consent" is you using a right, nothing more. What if they already have grounds? Then he won't be asking your permission, he'll be telling you what's about to happen. The asking is the tell. And what if I genuinely don't mind? Should I just let them? You can, it's your choice. But know what you're choosing, even with nothing to hide. A consent search still takes your time, still records your details, still puts you in a database of people who were searched, and it teaches that the friendly ask works, on you and on the next person down the road. The calm no costs an innocent person nothing but 30 seconds of mild awkwardness. And that's the whole game, really, knowing the difference between what you have to allow and what you're allowed to refuse, and staying calm enough to tell them apart while a stranger with a badge is leaning into your space. Now, everything I'm walking you through here, when you can refuse, the exact words to say, how to handle each push, and how to turn a bad stop into a complaint that actually lands, I've put all of it, in plain English, into one short handbook for England and Wales. It's called Know Your Rights, and it's the thing I wish I could hand to every person before the stop, instead of after it. It's got the wallet scripts in it too, the exact lines for the street, the car, and your front door, written so you can use them when your mind's gone blank and your heart's going. If this video's been useful to you, that book is the whole of it, organised and ready, and the link's in the description. So let me bring it home, because under all the nerves, it is genuinely simple. To search you, the police need a power and grounds. If an officer is asking your permission, it's very often because he hasn't got them, so don't hand them over. You don't consent, but you never obstruct. You decline calmly, you make him name his power, and the moment he does, you stop arguing and start recording. You can refuse a voluntary search, and refusing is not guilt. The people who get caught are almost never the ones who calmly said, "I don't consent." They're the ones who said, "Yeah, sure," because a friendly voice made them feel rude for hesitating. Don't be that one. Be the calm, polite person who knew the difference. If this helped you understand even one of your rights, do me a favour and send it to one person you care about, because someone you know is going to be stood on a pavement one evening with an officer asking to look in their bag, and the difference between a 2-minute chat and a ruined evening is whether they knew this before it happened. Subscribe, because this is all I do here. I take the